Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another World Robot Olympiad South Africa webinar. Thank you for joining. I hope that you will take something away from this, that you enjoy this presentation and our discussion, and I hope you learn a little bit about RoboMission if it is your first time. So welcome, each and every one of you. I know that it's quite tricky to sometimes join these things, but I really appreciate everybody jumping in. If you have questions at any time, you are welcome to type them into the chat or into the Q&A. We will then have our Q&A session right at the end once we've gone through everything. You will also be able to unmute yourselves at that time and can ask any WRO related questions you like. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. Let's jump straight into it. So my name is Duncan Beaton. I am currently the World Robot Olympiad International Head Judge for the RoboMission category. So I will be taking you through RoboMission as well as our Explorer category this year. RoboMission is one of the largest WRO categories. It is the largest WRO category, I should say, and comprises the most teams out of all of the categories, both internationally and in South Africa. So what is RoboMission? Well, it is a table-based challenge. Teams have to program a robot, they build it, they program it in order to solve a series of known and unknown tasks, all on a game mat. There are 3 different game mats within the RoboMission categories, and that is the 3 different age groups. When I talk about a known task is something that you have prior knowledge of. It's information that you have that you can use and build towards before you get to the competition. On the competition day, you will have unknown tasks, and this is our surprise rule. This is something your teams will not have any idea about. When you arrive at the competition, you'll be given the surprise rule, and your teams have an option to go for the rule or not. Within RoboMission, the highest points in the fastest time is how we will be declaring the winner for the RoboMission category. So what do you need in order to participate in the RoboMission category? Well, you need any robotics platform, anything at all, whatever you like, you can use within RoboMission as long as it fits with the general rules and all of their requirements. So for example, you cannot have a robot with a chainsaw. That is not allowed. So please don't go equipping any robots with weapons, even though they may help on the game mat itself. You will also need a programming device. This can be something that you will use to program. In RoboMission, you will use a laptop or a tablet. Please bring this with and make sure that your teams know the password for these devices. No cellular phones are allowed to be used for programming. All of the programming must be done on these laptops or tablets, and teams can arrive with a pre-programmed robot. So they have constructed their code throughout the year, and they arrive at their competition with their code and their fully constructed robot. In South Africa, we are using a wall height of 70 millimeters. The rules and the general rules state that the wall height can be between 50 to whatever millimeter height. We use 70 millimeters because from our experience, the wall heights at the international final tend to vary. Sometimes you may have a 50 millimeter wall height. Sometimes it could be 100 millimeters. You don't know. So 70 millimeters right in the middle is a nice bet. Our wall color is white. Sometimes you may have a different colored wall. India 2016 had wood grain as their side, and in 2023 we had a black wall. So the wall height that we have in South Africa is white, and again it is 70 millimeters. Within the senior age group, there is a 3D printed element that needs to be placed on the mat. You need to try and source this 3D printed element. It is fairly cheap to print, and you will place this on the game mat. It is stuck down on the mat. It will be used in both our provincial and national competitions for the RoboMission senior age group. So taking a look at the age groups, we have elementary and that's the Robot Rockstars game mat, the ages of 8 to 12 years. Junior, the Heritage Heroes game mat, 11 to 15 years, and senior, the Mosaic Masters, 14 to 19 years. So if you have a team that falls into these categories or these age groups, please make sure you're registering them for the correct age group. Make sure you practice on the correct age group. A team member must fit within these ages, and how we calculate the age is based on the age the participant is turning in the year of the competition. So whatever age they will be at the end of the year, that is the age group that you would enter them into. So as an example, we have a student that was born in 2014. They're going to be 12 years old, and they have a choice. They can enter the elementary age group or the junior age group, but they could not enter the senior age group because they do not meet those requirements. So if you've got a 13-year-old as an example, a 13-year-old cannot enter the elementary because the maximum age there is 12, and they can only enter the junior age group because the minimum age is 11 and the maximum age is 15. Please make sure you know the year of birth of your teams, as you will need this for registration. Taking a look at the actual challenges. Here we have the RoboMission Elementary game mat, and this is all set up as a really cool stage. This is a rock concert, and there are some elements that need to be taken to different places by your robot. We have an array of instruments that are placed on the game mat. They will start in the same position on the back of the truck. You have a microphone, some bongo drums, a guitar, and a lovely keyboard or piano. We then have some musical notes sitting up at the top of the game mat and a clef note placed in towards the middle. You also have 2 cables that are placed either side of the stage, 2 speakers either side of the stage, and an amplifier. We have the backstage area, the main stage, and we have the crowd. You also importantly have the start area. So diving into the points, what happens? Well, there's a bit of randomization. So our elementary randomization this year uses 4 elements: the yellow, the white, the blue, and the black notes. Please note that the red and the green notes will always start in the same place. They are not part of the randomization unless there's a surprise rule which includes them. So what does randomization mean? Before a scoring round, the head judge will randomize the game elements for all of the tables at a competition. So in elementary, what will happen is these 4 elements, the yellow, the white, the blue, and the black notes, will be placed into a box or into a bag, and they will be pulled out one by one and placed into their starting positions. This means that you do not know which element will be in which location until your robot scans it. So your robot will have to drive up and scan the area if you would like to do very well in the RoboMission category. Having a look at some other points, easy points here, we have the cables. There are 2 cable elements, and they need to be taken through onto the main stage from their starting position for 15 points each. They must be placed completely inside of that gray area. If they are touching, and by touching we mean that the element is outside of the gray area, it's touching a part of it, but it's out by a millimeter, you will only score 5 points. We then have the microphone, the first instrument that needs to be taken off of the back of the truck, and that needs to be placed in the yellow square on the main stage. Again, 20 points will get you a perfect microphone that is upright and completely within the yellow area. If the microphone is completely inside the yellow area and it's fallen over, you'll only score 10 points, or if it's just touching the yellow area, meaning it's touching outside of the yellow area, you will score 10 points. The rest of the instruments all need to be taken to the backstage area. Here you will receive 15 points for each element. Please note there is no touching for this one. So what does that mean? Well, all of the elements have to be completely inside of that backstage room in order for you to score the points. If the element is slightly outside of the area, you will not score points for that element. Then we have the notes, the musical notes that are randomized. They have specific target areas, the colors matching each note. So the yellow note to yellow, black to black, red to red, green to green, blue to blue, and white to white. If you place the note completely inside of the scoring area, you will receive 20 points. If you put it in the wrong area or it's touching outside, you will only receive 10 points. On that note, by the way, the outside area, that gray outline for the notes, that is counted as part of the note area. We then have some awesome bonus points. Bonus points are the easiest things to get on the mat because all you have to do is not touch them. If you do that, your teams will score these points. You receive 10 bonus points for each of the speakers and the amplifier if they remain in their starting positions. By remaining in their starting position, we are talking about the element must still be touching its square underneath. So underneath the amplifier, there is a square, and part of that amplifier must still be touching that area in order to score our bonus points. Jumping into our RoboMission Junior age group, RoboMission Junior Heritage Heroes this year, we have some really fun elements on the mat. We have some towers that need to be moved and constructed. We have some visitors or people that want to go and visit different parts of the archaeological site. We have some artifacts that need to be moved to different areas. And we have a lovely parrot that mustn't be disturbed. And because we live in a world where pollution is a thing, we have some horrible dirt particles sitting on our beautiful cobblestone area that need to be dealt with, and some barriers that are in place for a reason. So jumping into the point variations, first off, we have our randomization. Within Junior, there are a total of 5 artifacts. That's right, here there are 4, but there are actually 5. There's also a black artifact. Only 4 will be used during a scoring attempt, and they will be randomized. So that means that they will be placed randomly. You're not sure where they will be, and remember they need to go to different locations. The dirt particles will also be randomized. Here, the judges would hold it just above the table and drop the elements onto the game mat. Wherever they land, that is where they will be positioned, because it's not possible to position each one in the exact same place. The area that's used is that area that we can see the bricks underneath, those red bricks. So you're looking at quite a large area. Don't worry, there is an image coming up a bit later. So the first thing, or one of the things you have to do, is move the visitors to the different locations on the game mat. You have the red visitor who wants to go and visit the museum. That's the area in the top. All that they need to do is be placed into the area that is this large area over here, anywhere inside of there, and you will get your points. The green visitor wants to go and visit the dig site, which is again this large, big green area there. Our blue visitor wants to go and visit by the cobblestone area in the blue area. And our visitor in black wants to go and visit the black area up the top as well. You'll receive 10 points for each visitor that is completely inside of their correct area. That means if you take the green visitor and you put them into the museum, you will score no points for that visitor, even if they're completely inside, because you've put them in the wrong place. And I don't know about you, but I would be pretty annoyed if I was going somewhere and ended up going to the wrong place, all because my robot took me there. So please make sure you place them in their correct positions. There are no points scored if they are in the wrong place. Now, if they've fallen over or touching that area, you will then score 5 points. So again, you score 5 points if they are touching the correct scoring area. All of this you will find in the game rules, so please make sure your teams understand it. Next up, we have the red towers. Now, these are large towers. If you've built your elements, you can see they're quite big. They need to be taken and placed on the red squares with the orange border. You'll receive 15 points per tower that's completely inside of that area, including the orange background. So if it's touching the orange background and the red area, but nothing outside of the game mat, you will score full points for those elements. If you're unfortunate and they are touching the outside of that scoring area, you will only get 10 points. The yellow towers. Now, this is an exciting development within Junior. Our teams have to lift these towers up the top over here and come and place them on top of these towers positioned near the parrot and near the museum area. So that means your robot is going to have some kind of lifting mechanism if you are going to score those points. It is quite a big and heavy object, and it is fairly delicate. So please, if you're building towards this, make sure that your robot is able to cope with these sort of restrictions. If you can place it completely on top of the element and it stays within its scoring area, you will score your points. 25 points each if it is completely inside. If the base, that means this guy over here, has been moved slightly outside of that area, you will only score 10 points. If you take a yellow tower and you put it next to the tower base and they're both touching the area, you will score no points. It must be placed on top of the tower base if you would like to score those points. Taking a look at our artifacts, these are our randomized elements. They need to be taken up to the museum and placed on their matching color. So yellow to yellow, green to green, red to red, and blue to blue. And if the black element is used, black to black. You score 15 points for each element that's completely inside of its scoring area, and you will score 5 points if it's touching the area or in the wrong location. Our dirt particles. So our dirt particles start within our cobblestone area as per the outline. What your task for this mission is to move them completely outside of this area. So move them outside of the image that's shown. There we are here. Here we have a better image where we can see our dirt particles. All you have to do is take your dirt particle and move it outside of the area. If you can do that, you will score 2 points per dirt area, or per dirt particle, I should say. Next up, we have the bonus points. Again, these are free points. Your team should be scoring these, and there are 3 elements on the game task that you can score. Well, we have 2 barriers. These are positioned there and there on the game mat. We then have a lovely parrot that is very delicate. If you've built it, you know about it. And they must not be moved outside of their scoring areas. If they are touching outside, you may lose points for some of them. However, if they move completely outside, you get 0. Jumping now into our senior age group. This is the more difficult age group because our teams are slightly older, so in theory they should know a little bit more than our younger age groups, hence the difficulty within senior. We have our starting area as well as mosaic tiles. Now these tiles will always start in that place. They'll always be in those positions, so you should always know where the yellow tiles start, the blue, the green, and the white tiles. They shouldn't swap positions unless the surprise rule comes in and causes some issues. We then have a mosaic tile. This is where you are going to place all of these little elements as per the arrangement of the grid. We then have some masonry tools on the bottom section towards the right of the start area. Each one will be going to a different location. We then have cement pieces, and these are 1x6 bricks of the 4 different colors placed randomly on the game mat in their colored area, and they need to go to the different positions. And finally, within our senior age group, we have some special barriers that mustn't be knocked over in order to score our bonus points. So taking a look at our randomized element, the randomization will be the pattern of the mosaic underneath. It is a piece of paper. You can download the PowerPoint file where you can create your own wonderful mosaics. Remember, you have 6 of each color on the game mat. You have no idea how many of each of the 4 colors will be used because it's completely random. For example, you could have 6 yellow mosaic tiles used and all the rest being white. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but it is a possibility. Taking a look at some more randomization, we have the cement elements. So those cement elements are dropped by the judges inside of their area as per the image that you can see there. You can see that some of them are laying on top of one another. Within the junior age group, those elements are not allowed to lie on top of each other. They can't be stacked. So what do we need to do? Well, first thing, or one of the things, we need to move the rectangular trowel for 15 points right into the Aramco logo area. Nice and easy, very, very short distance to travel. If you get it completely in, you get 15 points. If it's touching, you receive 5. Next up, we have the cement bowl, and that must be taken to the parking area. That's this brown area over there with the cars. It needs to be placed inside of that area in order for you to score your full points. Next up, we have the masonry trowel. Now, the masonry trowel needs to go to the start area. So again, you're going to pick it up or drag it and put it into the starting area, completely inside. Moving on, we have our mosaic tiles. This is what you're going to be creating your mosaic. So your robot will have to pick up the tiles and then place them as per the grid. So you will receive 10 points for each correctly placed element and 5 points for each incorrect element. So that means that you would need to place a green element over there, a white element over there, a blue element over there. Follow the pattern and you will score full points. And if you miss one, if it's in an incorrect position, you will receive 5. So the maximum points awarded for just the mosaic tiles is 120 points because there's a total of 12 tiles that are being used. Next up, we have the cement. You must collect the cement elements and place them into their wonderful color matching area. So green to green, yellow to yellow, white to white, and blue to blue. A wonderful, simple, easy task, and you receive a whopping 1 point for each element correctly inside of that area. They need to be completely inside of the area. So if you look at the game mat, what you'll notice is the green and the blue areas are larger than the yellow and the white. So that means that they would be easier to place. Keep that in mind. If you're new, you'll want to go for the easy points on the game mat if you want to score for your first year. Next, we have the bonus points, and here you will receive 7 points for each of our elements that are still in their starting position. That means the ball is still sitting on its pedestal, it hasn't hit the game mat, and your wonderful little L shape is completely touching its starting area. What that means is you could go and move that element slightly outside of its area and you will still score points as long as the ball is still on top of its pedestal. Then there is a surprise rule. I've hinted at it a few times here, and it is a new rule on the day. This is something that was given to the teams during the first 5 minutes of the official competition time. Here they will have a chance to read the physical piece and then come up with a solution if they want to. The surprise rule is optional, but it does stay on the game mat. That means if it's in the way of your robot's original route, it stays there. You cannot pick it up and move it off of the table. Unless your robot picks it up and throws it off the table, that's completely allowed. It is generally worth more points than any of the other elements on the game mat, and it is a very good idea to try and score those points. They are generally quite easy and a very good idea. It could also be a new element, something that you have not seen. It doesn't necessarily have to be built out of any Lego elements. It could be a Coke can as an example. And it could also be an element that's already on the game mat. For example, the large trowel in senior might have to go somewhere else. Maybe you need to move the parrot to a safer location in junior. Or in our elementary, you may need to move the guitar to a different location. We do not know what it is until we arrive at the competition. So if you're preparing for the surprise rule, my suggestion to you is to get your teams to come up with different surprise rule options and have them test it out to see if they can solve it. Who knows? Maybe they'll get lucky and have actually figured out what it could be. We then have a technical summary. Now, this must be submitted online in a digital format before your provincial competition. We will accept these 1 week before the provincial competition because it is an international requirement. Last year, we were quite lax with receiving these, but this year, because it's now an international requirement, we must receive this. This is going to be a summary of your robot, the motors that you're using, the sensors you're using, its weight, its dimensions, a whole range of different bits and pieces and info about your robot. And again, you must use the correct technical sheet. You have to use the right sheet, the one that's provided to you. You can't come up with your own. It should only be a maximum of 2 pages. And if you should be inserting an image of your robot. However, we did have some very creative teams last year who actually drew the robots in the little block that was provided. So very creative, awesome job to those teams. And as a bonus, the technical summary may be worth 5 to 15 points. So what does RoboMission look like? So on the day of a competition, how does RoboMission work? What am I working my teams towards? Well, we first have a practice round. After the practice round, we have a quarantine round. And after quarantine, we jump straight into scoring. So how does that look? Well, a practice round. During practice, our teams test and they calibrate their robots. This is the opportunity teams have to go and see if their robots are still working perfectly on the game mats that are given to them. Teams have to work on the game mat that they have been assigned. They can't move from table to table. Teams can attempt the surprise rule during this time. So during this time, they will be practicing and adding onto their programs, maybe changing their robots a little bit to attempt the surprise rule. It's also a good idea for your team to ask the judge to test your robot's size and weight, especially if you have a large robot. Rather test it during the practice round than be disqualified when you go into quarantine. So if your team has a large robot, make sure that you tell them, let the judges test it during the practice round. Don't panic too much. It takes about a minute in total time. If the robot fits during the practice round, you can be pretty safe that it's going to fit within quarantine. During practice and any point in the competition, should be no communication with coaches. So your teams are not allowed to talk to you. You can't advise your teams. So no communication whatsoever with any of the teams at the event. After our practice round, normally an hour, we then have the quarantine round. So quarantine, this is where the teams will take their robots to their specified game table. They'll place it onto this table. Some will go and quarantine their programming devices with it. I suggest to do it. It's a very good idea. And during this time, our judges will test the robot's size and weight. So if your team tested in practice, they can be pretty safe that they'll be fine during quarantine. A big one for us, all of the robots must be on the quarantine table before the timer hits 0. If a team picks up their robot and they're taking a leisurely stroll towards the table and they've got 3 seconds left, if the timer hits 0 and their robot is not on the table, they will not be allowed to run during the scoring round. So they will receive 0 points with 120 seconds as their score because they were late to quarantine. It's a good idea to let your teams know that when the timer hits maybe 3 minutes, get your robot on the table. Make sure that it's there. You don't want to be disqualified. Make sure everything's happy and your robot is nice and safe in quarantine. At the same time as quarantine starts, the head judges will run the randomization. How that works is they will call one of the judges from each of the competition tables to one table in the game area. They will then draw out the randomized elements and place them on the game mat. The judges will then go and look at the mat, take those elements and place their tables in exactly the same way. All teams will have the same randomization for each scoring round. So that means scoring round 1 will have a specific randomization. Scoring round 2 will have a different randomization. Then scoring round 3 will have a different randomization unless you get really lucky and have the same randomization as a previous round. It has happened, believe it or not. After our quarantine, we jump into our scoring round. So in our scoring rounds, this is where there is a lot of pressure. Here, the tables have been randomized. The robots and your teams do not know where these elements are positioned until the robot starts running on the game mat. Teams should be following all of the judges' instructions, and the judges will give the teams what I call a judge's speech, where they'll run through the process of scoring and of running their robots. Once the team is comfortable and they are ready, the judges will give them a countdown, 3, 2, 1, go. The team will start their robot moving, and they will have 2 minutes maximum to score as many points as possible. In order to stop the robot, your team must touch the robot. They must end the program. When the robot stops, it should stay on the game mat, and then the judge will start scoring. Once the judge has completed scoring, the team will be asked to take their robot and place it back into quarantine and get ready for the next scoring round. After that, the next team will come up and the whole process starts again. So to stop the robot, a team must touch the robot and end the program. They leave it on the game mat for scoring. So a team can touch the robot at any time in order to stop their scoring run and be scored. So that means, as an example, if your robot has misbehaved, it's picked up an element and is heading straight to the scoring area, it's doing something completely different than what it should have been doing. However, it's scoring more points. If it places that element in that area, you can stop the robot when it's in that scoring zone, and you will receive those points if all of those scoring conditions are met. And then we repeat the entire process. We go back to a practice round, quarantine, and scoring. In South Africa, we have a 60-minute round 1, a 60-minute round 2, and a 40-minute round 3. So some tips for all of you RoboMission coaches, if you are students preparing for it, no matter who you are, here are some of my top 6 tips in order for you to prepare and do well within RoboMission. Number 1 is to plan your robot's route before you start building. If you have a good idea of where your robot needs to go, you'll understand what obstacles that the robot will encounter, as well as what kind of things it needs to find. You'll also find the most efficient route. However, if you do it in reverse, you start building your robot. What you're trying to do is get your robot to run on a course which it may not have been designed for or is impossible to do. For example, in practical terms, if you wanted to cross a river and you arrived with a car, you would be in really bad luck. However, if you planned ahead and brought a boat, you could cross the river quite easily. Do the easy stuff first. Score all of the easy points before you move on to all of those difficult points. It is very simple and quick. And once you have those points and you're scoring them repeatedly, move on to the difficult ones. Don't sacrifice the easy points for the more difficult ones that you may or may not score. Your robot should not really require any precise placement of elements. That means if your robot requires an element to be within a sort of millimeter range, you may have a really bad time because game mats are different, elements are different, and you have no idea what you're going to encounter. Rather build a robot with lots of variation so that it can collect and drop elements smoothly and easily. Don't work on the millimeter precision. It will only end badly. Use all of your robot sensors. No matter what sensors you're using, make sure your team uses them effectively. The ultrasonic sensor, as an idea, is a really great sensor for navigation, your light or color sensor for following lines. Please make sure your teams use those sensors, especially if you want to do well. A big one, try your robot out in different environments. Then you'll be amazed how your robot acts differently depending on where it's placed. So take your game mat outside, give it a shot in the full sun, otherwise put it under a tree where you've got a mixture of shade and sunlight on your game mat. See how your robot performs and if your teams can counter it or get their robot to run beautifully within that space. If you can do that, you will do very well at a provincial, national final, and the international. And an important one, take a break. Often teams will get stuck on one thing and they will be stuck on that one thing for weeks. If they take a break, they can come back with a clear head and probably solve their issues. So please make sure you take breaks, not only for your teams, but also for the robots. Remember, they get tired, the motors get weary, and they need to be charged. Don't program a robot below 30% battery because you are going to have a bad time. So jumping now into the Explorer age group, Explorer category. Explorer is a South African created category. It is only run here in South Africa, and it is an incredibly easy and simple category to get involved in. So if you are a beginner, it's your first time in WRO, this is the category that's been specifically designed for you. So it is a Lego-based competition at the moment. That means that you have to use a Lego robot in order to participate in the Explorer category. Only official Lego products are allowed to be used. That's for everything that is on your robot. Lego sensors, Lego rubber bands. So everything must be Lego and have the Lego mark on them. It is a table-based challenge similar to RoboMission, where teams have known and unknown tasks on the game mat. So our known tasks, these are the challenges again that your teams have been practicing for. The unknown tasks, these are challenges that are given to you on the day of the competition. For Explorer, we change it quite a bit, meaning that elements will move to different places. You may have new elements on the game mat at your provincial or national events. And in order to win in the Explorer age group, you need to have the highest points logged the fastest. That means whoever scores the highest first will win the gold medal. So what is it? Well, it is a simple challenge. The challenges are very, very easy. You get points for using sensors, moving objects, and completing the very simple game tasks. A big bonus within the Explorer age group is that teams get to choose when they score. So if the robot has performed well during their little run and they want to score and log it, they must ask the judge. The judge will then ask them to run it again. They can then receive the score. Within Explorer, teams can only score if their robot scores higher than their previous score. When all teams arrive, their score is 0. So when they have their first run, if a team scored 60 points, that is incredible. Well done to that team. If they run again and they score 150 points, that's even better. They'll log 150 for round 2. But then they ask the judge to score a third time. And here they only score 30 points. The judge ignores that score. They don't write it down, and the team doesn't lose a scoring chance. Teams have a total of 4 scoring opportunities in the Explorer category. So what do we need in order to participate in Explorer? Well, you will need the competition mat, the game mat itself. And this year we are using the junior game mat, the Heritage Heroes mat. This is for both Explorer Lite and Explorer Prime. You'll also require the Lego Elements set 45811. However, you can use any Lego pieces you like, as there is no color scanning. So that means your robot does not need to know what color it is looking at for each element. So if you don't have this set and you want to get involved, you can build these elements out of whatever pieces you may have. The color does not matter. It's more the shape and the weight that will help you do well. So taking a look at our age groups. So for Explorer Lite, it is the years 8 to 12, and Explorer Prime 11 to 16. Well, what's the difference between Explorer Lite and Explorer Prime? Explorer Lite has a far more relaxed scoring condition. That means if elements are touching, they will receive points for those. However, in Prime, it's slightly stricter. That means that elements must be completely inside as per the score sheet. It must follow the score sheet. So again, we have an idea. Let's see, we've got a student who's 12 years old, and this student can go into both the light age group as well as prime. Within Explorer, teams are only allowed to compete in Explorer Lite once and Explorer Prime once. That means if you've got a student who fits within the who is 15 years old, they can compete in Explorer Prime. They are not allowed to compete in Explorer Lite. If you have a student who's 12 years old, they can compete in Explorer Lite and the year after again in Explorer Prime if you like. So having a look at our Explorer challenge for the year. We have some beautiful elements on the game mat. We have different areas where your robot needs to go, and our starting position stays the same as per the Junior RoboMission rules. First off, or one of the tasks, is to collect the litter elements. These are the blue 2x4 bricks, and they need to be placed into this recycling area near the cobblestone area on the game mat. They'll receive 10 points each for these elements. We then have toolboxes. There are 3 toolboxes on the game mat, 2 starting in the bottom left and 1 starting up near the art museum. You'll receive 20 points for each element that's completely inside of the dig site area, touching one of the black squares. We then have 2 exhibits, a blue exhibit and a green exhibit. The blue exhibit needs to be placed into the blue exhibit area. That's right, it's the black square. And the green exhibit into the light blue area. We then have 2 art pieces that must be placed inside of the art museum. There you will score 15 points for each art museum piece. Next, we have a feedback box. Now, this feedback box is worth 30 points. It's the highest scoring element on the game mat, apart from the bolt, and it needs to be placed into the ocean. So you need to go and place it into one of the 3 possible water areas on the game mat. We then have a bolt and a crate. Now, your robot must place the bolt completely inside of the crate. For our Explorer Lite teams, the bolt starts in the starting area and you can place it on your robot by hand. That means you can put it wherever you want on your robot. You can build a mechanism for it if you like, which will then drive up to the crate and drop it inside. For our Explorer Prime teams, Explorer Prime, your bolt does not start on the robot. Completely ignore what I've put over here. This is wrong. I missed that one. But your bolt starts to the left of the start area and must be placed also completely inside of the crate. You will score 50 points in Explorer Prime for placing the bolt in the box, whereas in Explorer Lite, you will score only 20 points. So Explorer Prime, that is really the only difference in the game mat. So that means that you could have a competition where we have Explorer Prime and Explorer Lite running on the same game table. Then we have our bonus points, and the bonus points here are the ruins. Now these must stay in their starting position. There are a total of 4 ruins on the game mat. We have there 1 over there, 1 to the left of the dig site, 1 to the top right of the large ocean area, and 1 in the red area in the museum location. They're worth 5 points each, and you will score these points regardless of what happens unless you've moved them out of their starting area. In that case, you will not score any points for one element. So taking a look at Explorer, you also score points for your sensors. If your team has started their robot with the ultrasonic sensor, you will score points for doing so. If you then follow a line on the game mat, any line, anywhere on the mat, you will score points. So make sure your teams know those. Those are easy points, and it's very quick and simple to do. Next, your team will score points for stopping the robot. They need to touch the robot, end the program, and leave it on the game mat. If a team does not touch the robot, the program just ends by itself. Then the team will not score those points. The judges will help them, though, and tell them, touch the robot, touch the robot. The team will touch it, and they will score those easy points. The difference between Explorer Prime and Explorer Lite is really the difficulty of the challenge. So in Explorer Prime, elements must be completely inside versus touching. So on the competition day, you may have some new rules that are added. For example, elements may need to be taken to different locations. The points for elements may be adjusted, or you could have a completely new challenge. That's mainly for nationals, not really within provincials. However, in provincials, you could have new sets or new challenges on the game mat that you must try and score. With an Explorer, you have to reprogram your robot on the day. That means you arrive with a pre-built robot, but no program. So no USB, no program sitting on your laptop or tablet. Your team has to program the robot from scratch on the day of the competition with a blank programming slate. Remember, Explorer is about having fun. It's about testing our team's programming knowledge and their problem-solving abilities. So if a team can program, then they'll easily complete this task. You're not allowed any pre-programmed data. That includes elements within my blocks. So if you have a really cool line follower for your team that you've written yourself, if your team does not know how to build it, they will not be able to use it. So they must be able to rebuild it and program with it on the day. No my blocks are allowed to be used or saved programs within the Explorer age group. For judging, I strongly recommend that if you are new, you attend an event as a judge, even an event where your own teams will be. Why? Well, because if you are coming to one of the WRO events as a coach, if you are a veteran, you will know this, you cannot talk to your teams. All you do is sit and watch, and it can be quite boring sometimes. So by judging, you remove that boredom. You end up having a lot of fun. You can be very active as you move around the area. And importantly, you learn the judging process, the issues teams have, the success that teams will have, and you have a lot of fun and learning from our judges around you. If it is your first time and you want to judge, you must register. So when registration opens, there will be a judge's registration as well. Register for an event, choose your age group, choose your category, and you will then receive, if you are selected, your judging position. All judges who are new to WRO, we do our best to place them with judges who have experience. So if it's your first time, don't worry, you will have a judge on your table who has experience with you. Remember, we have our head judges who have a lot of experience. The majority have international experience and are able to take us through various things. This is for all WRO age groups, all WRO categories, and I highly recommend if you are new, join us as a judge. If you're nervous about doing it, join us as a judge. You will find that you had nothing to worry about. It is a lot of fun and you make a lot of great friends. And now we get to the section I think everyone's waiting for, the Q&A. This is your opportunity to ask your questions. So I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself if you would like, and I'm just going to start with the chat because I see that we have had some questions asking in there. I see we've got a question about, is there a line tracking and color sensor code that we can use for practice? You can find a lot of useful information online. If you put in, say, EV3 color sensor line following code, you will find something online that shows you how to program. It is very, very useful to jump onto those online resources, especially if you're learning for the first time. So remember, let teams learn, figure it out, and if you're not sure how to do it, use the resources that you have available. Is the tower already built and must it be moved like the red ones? Well, this is going to the junior age group and from a debt there. So is the tower already built? The red towers are already built, yes. The yellow towers are not. The top part of the yellow tower is not on the game mat, and the top part of the yellow tower, is on the game mat. The base is in its area, and you'll need to take the top part of the yellow bit and place it on top of the game mat. So, in the Explorer competition, if the table is larger than the mat, the rule states it must be against the left side of the table. No indication of the top bottom is given as for RoboMission. That is correct. So in RoboMission, depending on which rule set you are reading, there are specific conditions where the mat must be placed. Often in RoboMission, it should be placed within the center or towards the start area. However, we will try and have our mats correct. A question. So how much time do teams get to program on the day for the Explorer competition? Explorer normally runs for 2.5 hours. So that means your team will have a total of 2.5 hours in order to program and score. So try and get through as much as possible. The easy points is the way to go, whether you're doing Explorer or you're doing the RoboMission category. Right. If you have any questions, you are welcome to type them into the chat. Otherwise, you can unmute yourself and I will try to answer them. This is always the awkward part of these things where we all sit in silence for a few seconds waiting for a question. Nothing coming through. Remember, if you have questions, you can send them to wro@handsontech.co.za and we will be able to answer any of your questions there. You are happy to also give us a call or to use other channels to contact us to answer your questions. You can also join the upcoming webinar where we'll have another Q&A and you can answer any of your questions there. I hope you found this webinar useful. I hope it's explained a bit about how RoboMission works as well as Explorer. And if you've got anything at all, you know where to send it to wro@handsontech.co.za and Donnie and myself will be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and end over here. Drop your beat.